So I wanted to talk to you really quickly about the importance of understanding what you're feeling, which is a temporary emotion, as opposed to a fact. Okay, or as opposed to truth. It's really important for us to be discerning and to understand when we're feeling something which is just temporary and potentially a lie versus truth. Your emotions can be influenced by just about anything. Your emotions can be influenced by something you saw, something you heard, right? Things you see, things you hear, by people, by events, by the enemy, and so much more, right? Your feelings can be influenced by just about anything. And so when we understand that, then we can now pay attention to the things that we are feeling and then get to this point of questioning, is this fact? Like, is this truth? Or is this something I'm experiencing as a result of whatever that stimuli is? And this is why it's really important for us not to always trust our feelings, not to always trust what we are feeling. Your emotions can have you believing a lie as the truth. And then you go and you make decisions off of that lie. And the outcome ends up being regret, strained relationships, poor outcomes in some area of your life, frustration, anger, just so much more. So we have to be really careful that we're not going to make decisions based off of a feeling, which is a lie. And the enemy is really good at getting you to believe a lie if you're not spending time in your word where the truth lies, right? Or if you're not being led by the Holy Spirit, which is the spirit of truth. And so the enemy can have you believing a lie, and then you go ahead and you start to make decisions off of that lie and not realizing that there's some results and some things that are happening in your life. It's because of a poor decision that you ended up making during a time when you were feeling something very fleeting, very temporary, all right? And so we have to understand the tactics of the enemy so that we do not fall for his plans and so that we do not take the bait. All right. And one thing that I think about is when I think about the story of Abraham and Sarah. You know, Sarah, in a moment of desperation, in a moment of frustration, in a moment of potentially depression, we don't know, but we can assume that she was feeling really down about not being able to have a child. God promised them a child. It's been years and years and years and years, and nothing is happening. So she gets to this moment of desperation, and this moment where it's like, well, maybe God didn't mean for it to happen through me. Maybe I can have a surrogate. So she gets Abraham to agree. It didn't seem like it was hard for Abraham to agree, but she gets Abraham to agree to sleep with the servant girl Hagar and to impregnate her potentially so that she can be a surrogate for them, right? So Abraham agrees, Hagar gets pregnant, and then Hagar begins to, start to act a certain way towards Sarah, right? Mistreat Sarah, and now Sarah has regrets, and now Sarah is angry, and now Sarah is blaming Abraham for what she was experiencing. But you're the one who told them to do it, right? In a moment of desperation and in a moment of just probably depression or feeling down or feeling really sad and feeling hopeless, right? And so that led to her making a decision that she eventually ended up regretting, and a decision that ended up being permanent, right? And so we have to be really careful not to let our feelings dictate our lives and potentially cause us to ruin our lives, or potentially cause us to have these regrets that now we can't go back and fix. So we need to really know and understand when it's a feeling, when it's something very temporary versus when it is actually truth, so that we are not making decisions off of something very temporary and then getting permanent results that we don't necessarily want. So what do we do about it, right? One of the things that's important to do is to ask God for wisdom. The Bible tells us that if any man needs wisdom, he shall ask the Lord, right? And who gives abundantly without reproach, which means that if you ask God for wisdom, he will give you wisdom. He will give you wisdom. So ask God for wisdom on how to navigate certain feelings and certain things that you might be experiencing and going through, so that you don't go and make decisions that you're going to regret. Another thing is to work on exercising the fruit of the Spirit, which is one of the fruits of the Spirit, which is self-control. Work on practicing self-control. When you work on practicing self-control over and over and over again, and in different situations and different scenarios, then when you start to feel like this anger or sadness or frustration, whatever it may be, that could potentially cause you to make an irrational decision, practice on having self-control and just kind of really analyzing what is going on, what is happening, and let me not react, let me not do anything, let me just go and pray, let me just go before God, let me just go and let time do its thing. Another thing that you can do is really work on being led by the Holy Spirit. The more you allow the Holy Spirit to lead you and you obey, the easier it's going to be for you to recognize when the Holy Spirit is trying to lead you, right? And so that's something that we have to really allow ourselves to be led by the Holy Spirit, and not our emotions and not the circumstances that's happening in our lives. And when we do that, we take control over our emotions, and we make sure that our emotions are not dictating our lives or dictating our actions, which we can potentially regret later on. right? And so obviously, our feelings are important. God gave us feelings for a reason, right? We should be able to respond appropriately to things that are happening in our lives, but we have to be careful that we are not allowing feelings to cause us to believe a lie, to cause us to be deceived, and to cause us to do things that we are potentially going to regret. And so I hope that was helpful.